All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Marvel Buddies podcast. I am joined with Knight. What's up? What's up? Is your audio coming out okay? Everything's good. Everything sounds good. Yeah. His no audio. Okay. All right. Let's see what I can do here. All right. It could be. I think it might be my voice mod. Let's see.
Where's the output?
Can you hear yourself now? I think I added another audio device. You hear it?
Yeah, I hear myself.
All right. Perfect. There he is. He is That was on my end. He is also having camera troubles on his end, so it'll just be me with my new Avenger shirt. Um, yeah, but this week is gonna be a little bit shorter, a little bit goofier, a little bit interesting. Um, we're doing a pretty new character, but his importance to the Marvel universe is fairly big. Um, so how do I put this? It was requested a while back by one of my friends, Presidente, and he requested Howard the Duck and Cosmo the dog because they're very much like these goofier, wackier characters. And I'm trying to go back and hit all of your characters that you guys have requested. So this week I am doing Cosmo the dog. That will be his last request, and then I'll start hitting all of your other requests before reading anything that's new. I already had Snoopy, my editor. He just made a bunch of thumbnails, and I have a list of characters that I'm planning on doing eventually. But we are covering Cosmo the dog, right? Very niche, but very important character. He's also very new. He was created by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning as a reference to Laika, the real Russian or Soviet at the time space dog, and one of the first animals to be sent to space. And his first appearance was in Nova Volume Number 4, no, comic number 8, back in January of 2008. So he's been around for a while, but just not as long as some of these other characters. But even though he's only been around for such a short period of time, I think Cosmo has to be like one of my favorite of these characters. Well, do you know who Cosmo is? Like, do you remember who Cosmo
The
is?
dog.
Yeah, the dog. Okay, that is. I guess I walked into that one. Co Co Cosmo, Cosmo is the dog from Guardians of the Galaxy. He was in the collector's room. If you remember, he was the post-credit scene at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. He had the
Wait, which part? One or two?
part one, the first part. He was
Part
with the
one?
collector, Benicio del Toro's character, the collector.
Yeah.
He was with him. He is the dog that like licks his drink. Do you remember? And he licks his face.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
and then we had Howard the Duck who was in there too. He's like, "Why you letting him do that?" Right? Yeah, that's Cosmo and Howard, right? But Cosmo's a very interesting character because in Guardians of the Galaxy he was, I guess prisoner of the collector or part of like the collector's exhibit.
And so was Howard, right?
Yeah, Howard was too. But these are pretty important characters to the Marvel comic universe, right? Mainly because with Cosmo, right? I it's so hard for me to give you Cosmo comics because he's been in 8 comics, and of those 8, he's in like half of them, right? None of them are actually his own comics that I've been able to find that were on the Marvel Unlimited app. So he was in Nova number 8 and 9, which I covered, and it was really weird, but you get to kind of see his powers and whatnot. Um, and then he was in Guardians of the Galaxy Annual and Guardians of the Galaxy something else, where he was in like I didn't bother covering them because he's been in mostly like Guardians of the Galaxy characters. He's a cameo kind of character, right? He's not really the kind of character that you'd see um like have his own story, but he does have an important role to play with a lot of these characters. So I'll get into his backstory and then I'll kind of get into the comics that he's in. But Cosmo, again, he was a Russian space dog. He's from the Soviet Union, and the USSR pretty much sent out, like, this is a real thing. They sent out dogs to see if they could survive in orbit, right? And they sent a bunch of animals out, dogs, monkeys, whatever, rats, I think. But they sent them out to see if they could survive orbiting the Earth, right? And a bunch of these animals would go, and some of them would die and some of them wouldn't. Like, if you ever hear astronauts, like real life accounts of astronauts talking about like what they see in space, most of the time it's just dead animals because they're floating through space, right? um but Cosmo was one of these Russian dogs being used to see if they could survive like orbiting like a full rotation of the Earth. Um, and when Cosmo was in orbit, his ship kind of drifted, and it continued to drift all the way up until he reached nowhere, which, if you remember, is the planet from Guardians of the Galaxy, the severed head of the Celestial. Right. Um, the nowhere. You remember that place?
That's what it is. Yeah, from Infinity War,
Well, yeah, where
right?
they go,
Nowhere.
yeah, nowhere, where
Yeah.
they go to get the, yeah, technically, I was gonna say in Guardians of the Galaxy, but yeah. It was in Infinity War as well. But he goes to nowhere. On his way to nowhere, he kind of gets hit with cosmic radiation, and that's where his powers start to develop, right? He continues to mutate, and it gives him psionic powers, um, and like the ability to speak telepathically, but he wouldn't really meet anyone up until he becomes the ruler or like leader or like defender of nowhere. He's pretty much like the big boss of nowhere, right? Like he tells everyone what to do, which is funny because there's people like, like actual soldiers and like guards there, and there's a like 2 foot dog telling them what to do, right? But he meets Richard or Nova. Not the one we covered before. That was Sam. I'm talking about the original Nova, Richard Ryder. And the two of them go on this wacky adventure where they fight zombies and shit. And I will talk about it because it's the only one of the few comics where you actually get to see him. Um, and then yeah, it's this wacky comic, but
There's not much to it
it's
with
not it's hard to talk about this character because there's very little to him. So I'm really trying to stretch it out as much as possible. Because there's
Is it gonna be
he's
the
in
same as Howard the
8
Duck?
comics. Well, Howard the Duck has been through a lot more, right? He has his own comics, right? He has his own comic line. He
Right.
even had his own movies in the 80s. Technically, it was Marvel's first movie. Back when they first left Timely and became Marvel Comics, they made Howard the Duck a movie. Um, he has his own like stuff, right? Like movies, TV
Yeah.
shows, like fans. Cosmo is such a small and niche character that he doesn't really have that much of a
And he was just
influence.
introduced.
Yeah,
Like he
he
was just
8 year
made up.
2021, 2019, 18, 15 years ago, he was
Oh,
made. He's a very new character. He's been in 8 comics, right? So a comic every 2 years, pretty much, right? And so it's been difficult for him to develop as an important figure. Um, and I really wish Marvel could get on making like a solo Cosmo the Dog comic, right? Like a whole like just run of him. And I'm sure, I'm pretty sure there are,
wait.
but
So out of all the 8 comics, I mean, at least half of them.
on in that I was able to find of the 8 comics that I was able to find, he is just cameos in all of them, right? He's
No
not really.
way. He doesn't have his
He doesn't
own
have his
comic, like
own comic. Nope.
his own story, like his own or no.
He has an
What?
origin. He has an origin, and I
Okay.
just explained it a little,
Yeah,
which was the drifting from like being a Russian like cosmonaut dog, and then going
but there's
to
no
nowhere.
comic to
But
it.
there's no, yeah, there isn't. There really isn't. You just kind of it's just kind of implied, right? At least that I've been able to find. I can look this up. Um, Cosmo the dog comics, right? And then when I looked up like on Marvel, these were the comics that I found, right? One of which, this comic right here, is just covering the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. So like his exactly what you guys would have seen in Guardians of the Galaxy. So I covered the Nova stuff and I covered these two. Um, which meant that three of the comics that he was in I didn't get to cover. Mainly because these two kind of seem as more of like this one is a Thanos comic, so he might be like a background character. Same with this one. I tried to talk about his dynamic with the Guardians of the Galaxy and with Nova, but there's really like I probably could have gotten more with this one. What, $4 in case you guys want to buy it. But I really couldn't find anything of substantial value. He doesn't even have his own comic. Again, as I've been reiterating like a
Will he
million
be
times.
important to the MCU, or like will we see him more?
I
Or
hope, man. I
is he
hope.
gonna be like just Howard, like
Yeah,
you see him in post credit scenes and
if he's in a movie, I hope they put him in a Howard the Duck movie. I hope it's Howard and Cosmo, right? That would be really funny. He has interesting dynamics, right? His character is very much meant to be like man's best friend, right? Because he's a dog, and
yeah.
that's the stereotype with it, the man's best friend kind of thing. But Howard is he's a very niche character, right? He when it comes to being with Howard and his character, right? There's not much to it, right?
Yeah.
Or sorry, I meant Cosmo, right? When it comes to Cosmo, there's not much to it. Howard is a very big character, so if they were to put Cosmo somewhere, I would hope it'd be a Howard the Duck comic or a Howard the Duck movie, right? Especially with how they were both in the Collector's Lair. That or he just joins the Guardians crew, which I think would be cool.
Maybe in the next movie?
Maybe. I don't know. I know that in the next movie they were planning on revamping a bunch of characters and like removing a bunch of characters. Um, like I know that in case you guys spoiler alert, I will count down for you guys. Five, four, three, two, one. I know that Drax isn't going to sign back on for another Guardians movie because Dave Bautista doesn't want to do shirtless scenes. I'm pretty sure it was. He says he's like getting old and he doesn't want to do scenes where he's shirtless. And a lot of people were like, just give Drax some clothing, but Drax has not never been the kind of person to wear clothes. So
It wouldn't
I
fit
have a
him.
feeling they're killing Drax off. Um, and also his contract is up, and I don't know if he renewed. I know that they're getting Adam Warlock. He's played by the guy that looks like Sid from Toy Story. He was in what's that movie called? Meet the Fockers, I think it was, or We Are the Millers. He was in We Are the Millers. He was the guy that got bitten in the nuts by a spider.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah. It was very funny. If you guys don't know who he is, he's the meme of like you guys are getting paid. He's that guy.
oh, that one.
Yeah, he
Him?
he he's going to be Adam Warlock. Yeah. Funny enough, his code name is him, HIM, which is funny. Um, but yeah, him. I know he's set to show up, and then I think there's someone else as a child of Thanos. I think it's if you remember Borat 2, the daughter, Maria Balakalova, I think is her name. She's set to appear as Dark Swan or Black Swan or something like that. I forgot her name. She's the fifth child of Thanos. She was part of the Dark Order. Um, she has like elemental powers. It's pretty cool. Um, that I know of course. I've only ever seen her in video games. So, um, yeah, but it's pretty interesting, and I hope they do include Cosmo and Howard the Duck. It'd be so sick if Howard the Duck became a Guardian, or if they got someone like like Kitty Pryde, who's been a Guardian of the Galaxy. She was the girl that could walk through walls in X-Men. Um, but that's all speculation, and it's all just me being like, I want what if, right, kind of. But if he were to be anywhere, it would either be a standalone Nova movie or show, or a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Those are the only places he's been in comics. Um, but yeah, I want to get down to his powers real quick, and then I can start his comic run. But his comics are or his comic book powers are very reminiscent of Jean Grey. Do you know who that is, Raul?
Isn't that Phoenix?
Phoenix? Yeah, Marvel Girl or
Yeah.
Phoenix. Yeah. Jean Grey's powers are telepathy and telekinesis, and every single Marvel character has what is called enhanced longevity, meaning that they live forever, pretty much. They'll die at some point, but no one ever stays dead in Marvel except Uncle Ben. That is the rule. No one except Uncle Ben can stay dead forever. Um, yeah. So, so he lives pretty much forever. And which is like the coolest pet to have. And he has telepathy and telekinesis, right? Meaning he can talk to you and infiltrate your mind with his telepathy, and then lift things and everything that comes with that, including like mental shielding, psionic blast, that kind of stuff, with his telepathy and telekinesis. And he also, again, I mentioned he was the ruler of nowhere, right? So, as the ruler of nowhere, he can use Nowhere's teleporter, right? So Nowhere has a teleporter. You wear like a bracelet and you can teleport to different places, right? Meaning that he kind of has like a instant transmission thing, because he can telepathically speak to one of the people working in Nowhere that controls the teleporter to teleport him to Nowhere and then to a different location, right? So every single time he teleports, he does have to go to Nowhere and then go to a different location, but it's pretty much instant because it's teleportation, right? So you're here, you're there, you're here, you're there, right? If that makes Does that make any kind of
Yeah.
sense? Yeah,
He
it's like
would have to tell the people from nowhere, "Hey, teleport me back to nowhere." If
yeah,
he's like, yeah.
yeah. So it doesn't work like the Bifrost, and it doesn't work like Goku's instant transmission, where it's like I want to be here, take me here, kind of thing. And it's not like the Bifrost where Heimdall has to like see you and see your destination, kind of thing. It works like it works like the soul
It's like
stone, or
more
the I mean
communication.
it works like the space stone, right? Like it works like it pretty much works kind of like the space stone, where you have to have the space stone, like he has to have the thing, and then you have to like think of where you want to go with the space stone. He has to communicate with the workers and they have to teleport him, right? Kind of thing. It works kind of like that. Or I'm pretty sure Deadpool has like a teleporting belt. I'm not 100% sure. But if I'm remembering correctly, it works like that. If you guys are aware of that, but yeah, that's his powers. That's his character. He has his dynamic. Real quick before I do get into it, he's very much again man's best friend. So when he's with Richard or Peter, Nova or Star Lord, it's very much like how a dog would interact with its owner, right? He's like, I'll help you. Yeah, I'll do this. I'll do that. Let's go for a walk. I like doing that, right? But when when he's with the Guardians, he's since Rocket is a raccoon, he's always like barking and not trusting Rocket because it's a fucking raccoon. So it's like when a dog would see a raccoon, he's like like okay
So
okay
they're always fighting.
yeah. Have you seen Up?
Yeah,
You remember when
yeah.
the dogs were all like squirrel squirrel squirrel, and
And he
they were
would
all on
just
the
look
plane
at
and
the
they would
direction.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's his relation to Rocket, right? So whenever he sees Rocket, he's just there like that, and then barking at him because it's like I don't trust you, kind of thing. But yeah, it's funny, it's cute. Again, and it's a joke character, right? It's not like he has an important role because he rules nowhere and he's their kind of leader. But it's a joke, right? He's a pretty big jokey kind of character, and it's I really wish they would give him some love. But I'll start with the Nova comic number 8 by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning. Um, Nova's a pretty interesting character. He's been around for a while. But it starts out with him on Nowhere, but Nowhere's been abandoned. There's no one there, and he's just flying around, like trying to figure out what's going on. And he's also infected with a virus. It's a technomorphic virus called the transmode virus. Meaning that his skin, like the inside of his skin, is kind of metal, like turning into like circuits and metal. Um,
So he's becoming a robot or just a man
Kind
of steel or
of.
something?
Yeah, kind of. Um, it came from being in a specific planet. The Phalanx gave it to him. Anyway, he's on Nowhere, and he has this virus, and the people of Nowhere have all abandoned or been like there's no one on Nowhere except for him and these people. Oh man, they are what are their names? The it starts with an L or something like that. Freaking the Lanix, the Lanex or something like that. They're pretty much like the Avengers of a different planet, right? Like if another planet were to get together and have Avengers, right? But whatever, he's trying to run away from them, and he sees this like figure, and the helmet is talking to him. His helmet can talk to him. He's like, Richard, there's someone coming, and it's Cosmo, right? And he's like, oh, it's a dog, and he's like, yeah, I see that, and he's like, oh, it's in a spacesuit, and he's like, yep, and it's like barking at him, but he's kind of like Cosmo's gripping his arm, so he's barking at him, kind of thing, like growling, and he's like, hey, good boy, what are you trying to tell me? And then he just starts speaking English, right? Like imagine seeing a dog, right? And the dog is just like, I'm trying to tell you to follow me, and it's in a Russian accent because he's from the Soviet Union. So it's like I could not speak because my mouth was full with your arm, and he's like, yo, you fucking talk. He's like, you're a talking dog. He's like, please now, following Cosmo, please. And then he's like, yes, Cosmo, now please following me. And he's like, he's like, yo, you talk, and he's like, yeah, that's right. One foot after next. Come along now. And he's like, I don't want to dwell on this, but you're a talking dog, and you're wearing a spacesuit. And he's like, all of these things are true. You noticed them. Well, comrade, right? And he's like fucking with him, bro. And he's like, look, I've been through a lot of stuff recently. I'm going through a virus and whatnot, and I reached the end of the universe, and I'm being chased by like space zombies. But you're kind of wacky and you're confusing me. And he's like, so you've seen the end of the universe and space zombies, and a talking dog is confusing you. That's what you're getting at. And he's like, you're right. That's rude of me. You said your name was Cosmo. I'm Richard, and my superhero name is Nova, right? And he's like, da, last of the Nova Centurions. I'm being pleased to meet you, right? As we all know, Richard isn't the last of the Nova Centurions, but whatever. And he's like, honored to meet a man who pulled Annihilus' heart through his mouth. Annihilus, if you want to know, Annihilus is an important Fantastic Four villain. He kind of, Raul, you might have seen him. I know you play Contest of Champions. He's the green
Yeah,
robot guy with the bat wings.
with the
Um,
green helmet.
yeah,
Yeah,
Annihilus Marvel. I think I spelled that wrong. Yeah, it's this guy.
I think his whole body's like green and purple. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
he looks like him, like him.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This was what he looked like back when he debuted for the Fantastic Four. He is an interesting character. He has a lot more stories than Cosmo. If you guys do want me to cover him, you guys know where to vote for the comics, or characters. Um, if you want me to cover him. But yeah, um, Annihilus is a big villain. Have you ever played Metal Gear? No, what the fuck is that name? Metroid. Roll
No,
with
no,
Samus.
no. But I've heard of that the
Okay.
game.
He kind of reminds me of Ridley, the villain. And
Wait, that purple dragon?
yeah, yeah. If you've played Super Smash, he's in that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He
yeah, yeah,
reminds
yeah.
me of Ridley. Um, Richard, he's talking about with Richard. He put his hand down um Annihilus's mouth and pulled his heart out from it, like down the throat, all the way down, ripped his heart out and pulled it out, kind of thing.
Damn.
Yeah. And so he's like, it's an honor to meet the guy that killed Annihilus. Me, I would have gone for the throat, but I'm also a dog, right? So he's like, I couldn't reach all the way down because I have paws. And he's like, no, let us be getting along. And he's like, World Mind, did I take an especially hard knock, or is this on the head, or is this real? And then the helmet is scanning. He's like, scans show that the dog is real. Richard, a golden retriever Labrador cross. He's like, the dog exhibits advanced telepathic functions, and it has a good nature. And the dog, Cosmo turns and he's like, Cosmo knows what you want. You want to know where you are. You want to and why, and you want to know why I am a talking dog. Your head computer is quite correct. I have full telepathic function. He's like, and the head is like, it can hear me. And he's like, of course I can hear you, head computer. He's like, okay, where you are on nowhere. And he's like, I've got to be somewhere. He's like, no, no, niet, niet, nowhere with a K, right? Like nowhere, right? It's funny, it's funny. He's like, nowhere, and where is that? He's like, I will show you, please, to be following, right? And he's like, here, see here, please to be opening eyelid shutter. And he's like, what do you mean eyelid shutter, right? Because nowhere is the head of a celestial, so they're at like the cornea or the eye part. So it's like he's opening the eyelids so that they could see the outside. And then when um he's like he's like I meant the eyelid shutter, right? Because he thinks that it's his like um like his English is wrong. But
Oh, like
he's
he's
like, what do
not
you mean
understanding.
eyelid shutter? Yeah, like what do you mean that by
Yeah.
that? And he's like, I meant the eyelid shutter, right? And he's like, I know what your head computer means. It's getting me every time. This is nowhere. And then he pretty much shows him what nowhere is. I can show you a picture of nowhere.
Is it a head of a
Um,
celestial?
it is. It looks different, and I didn't get the picture of it because they were just talking about it for like a hot minute. Um, but this is kind of what it looks like. It looked a little. It sometimes it'll look like this or this, right? This is the exact. This is exactly actually this picture right here. Here, let's see if I can. Oh fuck, not this again. Um, window capture, dude. I am being trolled. See if I can get it. Oh, hold on. What is it? Is it display capture? Yeah. This is exactly the scene that they were like that I wanted to show you. It was huge, and they just started talking. Um, but yeah, this is where they are. This is on nowhere. They are on the eyelid. If you can see the this is like it's upside down. So this would be the mouth and the neck, and these are like the wings or the ears, and then here's the eyes and nose kind of thing. So it's an upside down head. You kind of it's kind of like tilted like well, my camera's upside down. It'd be tilted like that, right? Um, yeah, that's nowhere. Um, that's the exact scene of it too. Um, it's pretty cool. But yeah, they were talking about it, and there's like he's like, what the hell? What can be big enough to like decapitate a celestial? Um, and Um, he's like, I know what your head computer means. It's getting me every time. He's like, this is nowhere. Da. This is the last habitat in the universe, slowly cruising towards the end of everything. And he's like, this kind of eclipses the whole talking dog thing. No offense, right? Like, what the hell decapitates a celestial, right? Because you think about it. So, I mentioned when I covered like Marvel universe, celestials are beings of pure energy in suits of armor, right? So he's like, how does this suit of armor lose its head if it's energy, right? And he's like beats crap out of me. Cosmo, just glad Cosmo was not there when it happened, right? Because it probably was the equivalent of like a nuke exploding or something. He's like, no one knows how this place came to be. All they know is it is last place in all creation. A piece of debris uh, riding foam off, ripped towards infinity. Um, a piece of debris floating foam of ripped towards infinity. Another decade or so, it will pass beyond the cosmic threshold. He's like, and then what? And he just, yeah. In meantime, come here because of Rip. In meantime, people come here because of Rip. All space and time meets here, all dimensions of reality. So people come here from across all space and time, all kinds of species. It's like they come here to study, to inspect. They come to observe end of the universe from closest available platform. It's quite quite some community we have here on nowhere. He's like, yeah. So where is this community? He's like, they're hiding in fear. He's like, hiding. They've all taken shelter in a pocket universe generated in one of the labs. And he's like, why? And he's like, the Luminals. That's the Avengers from the other place. He's like, you saw Luminals. Luminals brought something bad on board here. It eats it eats us up. It's bad thing. It's like, what kind of bad thing? And he's like, Cosmo does not know. A big box we saw the Luminals had come to study the creation creations end like the rest of us, but um, no, they brought big box, then danger started. So help me to understand Cosmo. There's something aboard that's killing everyone. That is why they hid Comrade Nova. And he's like, then he's like, why didn't you hide Cosmo? He's like, I wanted to assist. I could not help myself. I am man's best friend, right? And that's his dynamic, right? He's like, he will do anything to help because he is man's best friend. Um, and you'll see that come around later. But he's like, he's like talking to, he's like, world mind. He's like, Richard, I finally translated the wording on the wall. He's like, yeah. And he's like, the first word I saw was 27, and the next is 26. And it's like, oh lord, it's a timer, right? So he's like, here's like a little flashback of the people on Nowhere. Like here's Cosmo and all these different aliens, right? Here's this one dude looks kind of sick. He's got like he doesn't have legs. He's got like wheels. He looks like Wally.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that.
Yeah. And then he's like this guy looks like Bender from Futurama, the arm, right? But it's cool. Um, the like head here. You remember Ben 10? Remember Vilgax?
Oh my god, like the squid
The
face.
squid face guy, yeah. Down here, look. This is Vilgax right here. But he's like Cosmo is top dog. You see, haha, no pun intended. Cosmo is chief of security, right? So yeah, that's his position. He's chief of security. He's the top dog. And he's like many visitors in nowhere just now, many visitors in nowhere just now. The meeting places bustling. Cosmo did not want to start panic, right? So he kind of funneled everyone to like a specific place. Like that is the Luminals. They had brought a big box on board. And he's like, box, no, there's no problems here. Your instruments must be faulty. And he's like, fine, just be making sure Cosmo not have to come back here and kick your butt off nowhere, right? Cosmo even growled at him a little to make sure Cosmo means business, right? So he's like, it started here, Cosmo. Like, right here. You said it was like a haunting. It's like forms of energy never seen before, even out here at RIP. He's like, scanners could make no sense of it. He's like, that checks with what I saw when I first got here. Serious Linda Blair freakiness, and I actually am not aware of this reference, so I'm going to look it up. Was she in like Freaky Friday or something? I don't know. She was in The Exorcist, I guess. Maybe that's why. Beats me. Oh yeah. Ha! Look. Exorcist. Good movie. Ha ha
No way.
ha. No fucking way, bro.
Wow,
Comic. Cosmo had to hide behind. So what timing, bro? Can you wanna clip? Can you clip that? Can you
dude.
like? Do you know how to clip it on Twitch? Can you clip that for me?
Nah. Hold
Oh
on.
man. I think there should be like a little like camera button at the bottom, and you just drag the time. That was funny, bro. Oh man. Um, that shit was funny.
I can't. Damn.
I think I should be able to. Hold on, let's see. Damn, that was pretty comedic timing. Hold on, let's see.
Yeah, actually, I'm dumb. Hold on. I clipped it, I
Is
think.
it okay? Yeah, thank you. It'll show up on the clip should show up on my thing. Thank you for that. Um, and he's like, so pretty much he's like, where's the dimensional envelope? Where did you hide everyone? And he's like, oh, right here in my collar. So he put them all in a pocket dimension around his neck on a collar, on his dog collar, right? And he's like, in this tiny thing here, and he's like, it's a tesseracted storage crystal, Richard. And then here's everyone fucking floating around, like Fall Guys, like the one little like,
Yeah.
when you get into like the water place and you have to go up and whatnot. This is what it reminds me of. It's like this is everyone there like in Fall Guys, like doing the little yeah.
Oh.
He's like, I can feel their anxiety. They're really scared in there. It's like we are approaching zone used by Zarthian delegation. Richard, the luminals you encountered made reference to something called Abyss, right? So Abyss is important because, as you guys will see, Abyss is the villain that they end up fighting. Right? He's like, Zarthian records reveal Abyss to be the luminals' nemesis, their arch foe. It is alleged that Abyss is a mystically empowered and capable of turning sentient life forms into something called meat puppets. Anyway, um, yeah, pretty much. He's like, okay, now we have primary suspect. We have a primary suspect. See what you can dig up on this a big character world mine. And he's like, any idea why Cosmo and I are resistant to his powers? So Abyss can't affect either of them, and he's like, in your case, Richard, I presume that the buffers holding your transmode virus in check are also blocking his efforts to manipulate you. Meaning that because Richard has like this space AIDS, he can't really get infected by the Abyss's thingy. And Cosmo is um like I'm pretty sure his telepathy is making it. He has like a psionic shield, right? But I might be wrong. And then Cosmo like talks to him like, "Comrade, you have transmode. You're transmode positive, right?" Which is why I call it like space AIDS, because it really sounds like space AIDS, like because he's like positive, right? Like
Yeah.
so so he's like afraid so caught it while the phalanx were while trying caught it from the phalanx while trying to stop them from taking over the Creed. Do you know about the Phalanx? That Cosmo has heard plenty. All bad Cosmo has been told tales of Phalanx and also stories of mysterious uh, Technaric parents that spawned them. How did they cause you to come to Edge of Universe? Long story, I'll tell you as soon as we resolve this mission. And how did you end up here? Like, also a long story, I'll tell you as well. We know that he drifted into space from here, but there could be like little things in between, and they immediately get ambushed by these zombie characters, right? He's like, I think if there is being a later, right? Because he's like he has that Russian accent. If there's a later, he's like, watch out, get behind me, Cosmo. And Richard starts to blast them with his like powers. Nova, do you know Nova's powers, Raul?
Can he shoot like lasers or something? I
He
don't know
pretty
much
much
about
has
Nova.
like energy manipulation, right? So he can like shoot energy blast out of him. That's what
Yeah.
I know of him, right? He can fly and manipulate energy around him. He can breathe in space and shit because of the helmet. And I'm pretty sure it's the helmet that gives him the power, right? When he takes off the helmet, he's kind of powerless. But when he puts it on, he has all these powers of like being able to shoot energy and flying and whatnot. Um, Kind of like Captain Marvel, sort of.
Oh, like
Hmm.
shooting out energy through
Yeah.
her fist and everything.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And he turns to Cosmo, like, Cosmo, can you defend yourself? And Cosmo's like, can Cosmo defend himself? Nova says, grrr, and he like blasts them with like a psychic attack, right? And like they'll just go flying back, and he's like, okay, I'm impressed. He's like, Spashiba, watch your back. And actually I kind of want to know what that means now. How do you spell that? Spashiba, spasiba, spasiba,
Who spelled what?
spasiba. Oh, it's thank you. What? Oh yeah, yeah. Like, thank you. Watch your back. Um, and he turns around and he's like, "Oh, nice save, thanks." And they're like fighting and they're doing that whole like back to back, pew pew pew, wah wah wah, kind of. You know what I'm talking about. And he's like, "Richard, I'm obliged to remind you that this is taking 83% of your Nova Force to hold your transmode virus in remission. You have only a limited reserve of energy to expend in this fashion." Right? So the virus, he uses his powers to hold back the virus from killing him or whatever. Um, and by using his Nova powers, he is remissing. The virus is in remission, so it's affecting him, right? And he's like, Cosmo, Cosmo, we have to cut out of this fight fast. He's like, bah, Cosmo was just getting started, right? And like, there's this giant explosion, and in comes the leader of the Luminous guys, whatever. The Avengers from like the different planet or whatever, right? And um his name is Cynosure, I think. The other Luminals, yeah. He's like, have gone zombie on us too, right? And he's like, oh, not good. Maybe fast exit is advisable after all. And Nova grabs Cosmo and flies like pretty much Nova is a rocket, right? He's pretty much just like a flying rocket that shoots lasers. Um, so he flies out, and here's here's Nova with his tongue, or Cosmo with his tongue out. He's like, because he's a dog, and he like, when he feels the wind, he sticks his tongue. It's funny. Um, and
He
he's like,
can't fly, does he?
no,
Can he?
Cosmo can't fly. But Nova can, and that's why they're traveling like that. But Cosmo can't fly. He's pretty much just a telepathic dog. Um, but yeah, and then he's like, fun. Let us do that again. Let us do fun. Let us do that again. Da. It's like maybe after we get our bearings, we gotta be deep in the luminal zone right now. Um, and then he gets cut off by these like ghosts right down here, and he's like, oh my God, what is that? He's like, that is being Big Box, one of Luminal's, the one Luminal's brought on board. Remember Cosmo say Big Box? It's like, is it me or does it look very similar to a giant coffin, right? And he's like, hello, um, have you come to let me out? And he's like, I always get out again in the end. He's like, let me guess, Abyss, World Mindful, and he does like a scan of the casket, right? So pretty much Abyss is in there in like a tomb, and it's trying to get out and like turn everyone into zombies or whatever. Um, and he has to pretty much steal her in the thing. It's like I always get out, I always come back. That is why you fear me. And he's like, fear not exclusively directed at big black box. Comrade Nova, we have company, right? And here are the Luminous, or like the other Avenger guys. He's like, bad company. He's like, ready or not, right? And then pretty much I cut out like a good portion of what's going on. Um, but they
Wait, was
start
this
to,
is it them just fighting?
yeah, it's Richard leaving Cosmo to fight them. So you see Cosmo fighting them, and then Richard just leaves to try and fight Abyss. So it's mostly just Richard and Abyss stuff here. Here
Oh, okay.
you'll see. So he's like, Richard, the casket is a powerful containment system, a miniature prison. He's like, a prison that cannot hold me. The Luminals always tried to lock me in chains, but it never lasted. This time in desperation, they sought to cast me off to the edge of the universe, but even that wouldn't end me. Now, are you going to let me out? And he's like, that's going to be a pretty big no. He's like, then you are of no use to me. And she like slaps him away, and Cosmo's like, oh, Boje moi, which I'm pretty sure it means like, oh Lord, or something like that. And Richard kind of gets up. He's like, I'm fine. I'm just shaking a little bit. He's like, the containment casket's beginning to malfunction. Without repair, it'll only be a matter of minutes, and what's inside can very well destroy nowhere. It's like, I do not want to find out what's inside. Cosmo sealed the door, and Cosmo's pretty much like holding them back with like a force field, right? So he's like, come on then, ugly zombies, if you think you can bite harder than a Russian dog, right? He's like, Richard, I will not allow you to jeopardize. He's like, Comrade Nova, zombies are trying to break through the barrier, right? So pretty much what ends up happening is, like I mentioned, Richard goes off to fight Abyss, and it's just him holding off the zombies while Richard fights them. And what Richard ends up doing is using that technomorph virus that he has in him, the space AIDS or whatever, and using that to repair the coffin so that he could seal Abyss inside the coffin, right? You can see kind of like the little like, you know what it reminds me of actually? I wonder if that is a phalanx. Um, oh,
A
no,
what? Phalanx?
yeah, the reason why he has that is it's Cipher, right? Cipher, where is Warlock? Warlock. Phalanx? I think he is a phalanx. Yeah.
Wait, Warlock. You talking about
This
that
is
one
Warlock.
character who's like all metallic?
Yeah, he's like black and yellow. This is him. Friend Doug. This is him. Oh, friend Doug. We are friend Doug. Right? Something he speaks like that because he doesn't know how to speak English, and Doug taught him a little bit of English.
Yeah.
Um, what is it? Display capture. Boop, boop, boop. This is him. This is him in the new comics. He actually just became Doug's sword because they had to fight some people. It's pretty cool. Um,
Is that his human form, or was
no,
he always human?
this is no. So look. This is Warlock, right? This is what he looks like. This is him. This is him as an X-Man, right? His best friend is Cipher, right? Who is, where is he? Where is Cipher? I just had a picture of him. This is Cipher. Him, the blonde kid. He can speak like any language. Yeah. Um,
Wait, he has a superpower that he just speaks any
every
or
language. He can learn any
yeah.
language offered. So yeah, he can speak like any language. That's his superpower, and he is closely related with Warlock because when Warlock came to Earth, the two of them kind of he learned how to speak Warlock's language, and they kind of like got together. I guess I think that's if I'm not mistaken. This is all like New Mutant stuff. Um, but yeah. That's Kazar, I think, or no, that's Adam Warlock. Yeah, here's him in a toy form. Here's him. Yeah. So he got Warlock's virus, and I guess it's turning him like Warlock. But he ends up using again. He ends up using the virus to trap Abyss in the casket. And he's like, "Great Void, the zombies are falling apart to dust. What did you do?" And he's like, "I repaired the containment system. I let a tiny bit of the virus out to and use it to fix what Abyss had done." And then he releases everyone back on Nowhere to like from his collar onto Nowhere, and he's like, "Stay well, comrade. Cosmo would not like you to succumb to full-blown trans mode. You would be bad, Nova, eh? Maybe you stay here, rest some more on Nowhere. What do you say?" It's like, "I'd love to, but I have to go. The entire galaxy is depending on me. But it's astonishing to see Nowhere so alive. I bet these folks here glad to get out of your collar." Huh? He's like, "Da, life get back to normal. Nowhere is nowhere once more. Comrade, Cosmo has been considering your predicament, the phalanx, the Kree, all that stuff. Cosmo thinks he can help. Let Cosmo show you something." And he shows him the continuum cortex built into the brain of the Celestial. It's a nexus point to anywhere and any when in the universe. It is a form here it is from here we travel. So this is what they use to teleport. But I guess it technically can also be used to time travel. If that makes any sense.
So Cosmo can like just go back in time
Technically.
or go forward.
Technically. Technically. He's like, "Cosmo has taken liberty of plotting course to world Cosmo believes Comrade Nova should visit. I'm not even gonna try. The techno homeworld and birthplace of the phalanx." Did you do this?
The English is broken.
On God, bro. Well, I mean, I think that's the actual. I don't know how to pronounce that. And then Nova kind of throws him a present. He's like, "Step into Cortex, comrade. Come on, relax. Sensation of transit is quite pleasant." He's like, "Okay, oh, I almost forgot. I got a gift for you from the marketplace." He's like, "Oh, you're so kind. You are a true comrade. Well, goodbye and good luck, right?" And he leaves him. And the present. Can you want to guess what the present was that he got him?
A chew toy.
Yeah, he got him a little
No
chew
way.
toy. Yeah, he's gone. Now what is gift? Oh, Chewbone toy. How did Nova know this is Cosmo's favorite, right? And so the comic ends with Cosmo on his like bed chewing his chew toy, and then the sirens start going off. He's like, "Huh?" And he's like, "Intruder alert, intruder alert." He's like, "Cosmo's on his way." And he's going with the army. They're like the Nowhere soldiers or whatever. And he's like, "TAC reports 2 intruders armed and hostile. Reports shot fired on levels 10 and 11." He's like, "Casualties?" And he's like, "Plenty. They came through here firing indiscriminately. Where are they now?" They were heading for the Continuum Cortex. Well, do you really quickly, before I scroll down any further, that's perfect, want to guess who the two people are?
uh, can you give me a hint?
They're both green.
Gamora?
Okay.
Yo, I was gonna say She-Hulk, but no, no, never mind. Nah, nah. Gamora is my only guess.
Okay, that's half of them. The other one is green and on a team with Gamora.
Wait, no.
He's not
Damn
okay.
it. I
He's not green in the movies.
I was just thinking the movies too.
He's not green in the movies, but he is green in the comics.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's Gamora and Drax, right? And so
Oh, wait, Drax is green in the comics?
Drax is green in the
I mean, I
comics.
mean,
Yeah.
uh,
Actually, you want to see what Drax used to look
I
like?
wouldn't know that because like I don't read the comics.
Yeah, hold on. Let me show you. This is what he used to look like back in the comics. Bro was goofy as a mug. Look at this.
No way that was
Mhm.
Drax.
And he was pretty much like a right, here's where's Thanos, right? Thanos. Or Drax will, you will help Moon Lady, or Drax will destroy you. Drax was pretty much like a Hulk version kind of character. Um, yo, this guy, again, being a Hulk-esque type of character, was the absolute like dumbest character ever. So he played an important role after Infinity War in the comics because they separated all the stones and divided it amongst the heroes. So Adam kept the Soul Stone because he's the only one that could communicate with the Soul Stone, and they gave one to like Doctor Strange and whatnot. They gave Drax the Power Stone,
Oh my god.
and he thought it was a jelly bean, so he swallowed it like whole. He just swallowed the whole thing, and he had the Power Stone in him. So whenever he fought, he was like super buff because he just had the physical Power Stone inside of him. That shit was funny. But anyway, they end up grabbing the time traveling collars and heading towards Sam. Um, but that's the end of Cosmo in that comic. But again, he is man's best friend, and he does interact with Nova, but he also again interacts with characters like Star Lord and distrusts Rocket because he's a raccoon. So remember when I mentioned that he'll do anything to be helpful. Now this comic again is pretty like, what's the word I'm looking for? Vague, because it's like it's the start of like a big event, but you can see Cosmo here kind of helping this shadowy figure, and I believe Cosmo's being mind controlled. It looks like it, but it could also be that Cosmo's just willing to be helpful. So pretext, all of the like Guardians characters and all of like the space kind of characters are like scattered, right? They're missing, and Cosmo's helping this guy look for them. Um, and he's like, Cosmo, the other heroes who fell through the black hole, have you located them yet? He's like, yet none of them. Cosmo's trying, and he's like, it's imperative that they are found. They must be saved. The way we saved you. And he's like, Da, Cosmo's happy for you to rescue him, right? And you can tell because his eyes are kind of glowing that he's under some sort of mind control. You can see him wagging his tail here. It's kind of cute. But he's like, Cosmo's happy for you to rescue him from void of space after Silver Surfer pull him from black hole. But you must um, but you must to understand others scattered across stars will take time for faith drones to find and save. It's like, Cosmo is liar. I have found several of them. Plutnik drones into them now. And here is Richard, the first one that he finds at a bar. And he's like, yeah, you keep your helmet on, officer. What you want? He's like, you got a good Centurion fermented wheat on top. And he's like, yeah, got red tale and bottles. Pretty much he's like drinking at a bar. He's like, He's like 30 creds. You got physical. The scanner's bust. He's like, really? All I've got on me is you don't take Earth dollars, do you? He's like, are they Canadian dollars? So he's like, it's pretty funny. He's trying to pay for space drinks with Canadian money. Um, he's like, relax, Nova. I've got this, and Kazar pays for it. Here's Kazar. Um, and he's like, pretty much they get together and they start talking because they're all buddies. And I'm pretty sure at this point Kazar is Galactus's herald. So he's like, how's Galactus taking in it? Because the Silver Surfer has been kind of thrown into a black hole. So he's like, oh, good Galactus thing having to come back from that. He's kind of down lately. He's like, Big G's depressed. top, Top G is sad. He got kicked out of social media. Anyway, he's like, this guy, he's just this guy, listen, can we talk? And he's like, I thought that's what we were doing. And he's like, I'm just, your commander, when he asked where you were, well, he told me you were on therapeutic leave. And he's like, yeah, I should have told you about that. And then here's him about 8 days ago trying to save, like, he's in the crawl system, which kind of looks like everyone there is kind of like a mafia boss. That's what I'm getting at, right? And
The
he's like,
suits.
they're all like mafia people. They're like Earth if Earth was the 19 like 50s or whatever, and or 40s or 1920s, 30s, prohibition, prohibition time, and everyone was like a mobster gangster kind of person, pretty much, and they never expanded from it. Like they never went. into like economic decline and World War II never happened and everyone's still like a prohibition gangster pretty much.
Yeah.
Um, and so Richard comes and they're being attacked by the Kree, and like I mentioned, the Kree their goal is to expand. So he's like, you guys gotta leave. We have the Pan World Jurisdiction Treaty here, so you have no jurisdiction. Leave or face the immediate penalty. And of course they don't want to. And the guy's like speaking weird. He's like, the Sepulcas, they got you outnumbered 5-1. And he's like, I'm aware of this. Bro could not be bothered. Look at his face, bro. Bro does not give a shit anymore. But they're all gonna shoot him, and he just blasts them all, and literally fucking disintegrates them. Like, look at this. Look at this. Um,
They
and
had
then
no chance.
no shot, bro. And then he's calling command. He's like, need to submit a form 37 for use of lethal force. Over. He's like, Ryder, is that you? And he's like, this is Adsitil, Adsit. Listen, the scrolls, they know you're there. They found me, Commander. That's why I needed the 37. He's like, no, not the Raiders. I just got a message from the Skrull High Command, Rich. They said they're cleaning up the crawl system. That it's weakening the Empire, right? He's like, what's Scott? That's crazy. Krall's a protected system under the Pan World Treaty. He's like, the Skrulls just pulled out of the treaty, Rich. We we no longer have jurisdiction in the Andromeda Galaxy. So, you guys remember the Skrulls are from the Andromeda Galaxy, and they took control of all of the planets on the Andromeda Galaxy, and they made a treaty with the Nova Corps so that the Nova Corps could protect them, and they had to like follow certain rules. But the Skrulls have pulled out, and they pretty much have this giant ship with this giant cannon that they're about to blow up like a sun, and they do, and everyone dies. But Nova, having the helmet and whatnot, he's pretty much like a living force field, so he doesn't get hurt, right? Which is why he can breathe in space, because he's in like this force field. He's like, some have evacuated. Bugface Brown, Prince Dazan, Boss Barker's boys, maybe 10,000 survived. Everyone else is burned except me. The Nova Force, it used the heat and radiation to
So how
preserve it.
strong is Nova?
Pretty
Oh wait, no,
strong.
you covered it up, didn't you?
I
For
covered
Nova.
Sam Alexander, the younger Nova. Um, and for a kid that had been an hour into his power, like no, like had just an hour ago put the helmet on, had been able to learn how to fly across galaxies and fight the Chitauri and even beat like a big old Nova boss, right? So it's like you don't need experience to be a Nova, but it helps, right? And this guy has been all over the place, so he's taken big fights, and he's a pretty strong character, right? Um, and so they pretty much go on and talk about their experiences recently, and he's talking about how he's on therapeutic leave because he watched people die, and he's like, so pretty much they're just explaining it, how they're on therapeutic leave, and why the Skrulls have left the like system and whatnot, and they're trying to go to war. Um, and here I pretty much just cut it all out because it's mostly just it's not Cosmo, it's nothing related to Cosmo. So I cut it all out, and then I'm just talking about the three characters, the three main characters that they were trying to find, which was Nova, Richard Rider, um, fuck, what was this guy's name? Kazar, who had like helped something by ripping like debris out of space or something, and then Darkhawk, who had also been shot through the black hole. Um, and then he was caught by here are the Kree. I think pretty sure this is Darkhawk. Here is this a Skrull, and this is a Shi'ar member, and he actually gets turned into like a child. He's like, but no, not like this. I'm younger than I was when I first found the amulet. He's like, what the fuck? I'm a kid. And then here's Cosmo back like mind controlled, and he's like, okay, Darkhawk is obtained, Kazar as well. You know who Darkhawk is, right? Raul. He's from Contest of Champions as well.
Darkhawk?
Yeah, this guy.
Wait, was he fighting Ronin? The acute him, yeah.
He wasn't in the movies. He was in the Contest of Champions game that you play.
No, no,
I
no.
know he's an
Like
indie.
when you were scrolling through your doc.
Here? No, that's a Kree. That's just another Kree guy, but it does look
Oh,
like it.
okay.
'Cause he is also a Kree. Here's Darkhawk. He's a very big space character. He's pretty much like mostly robot, I'm pretty sure, and like a helmet. I actually have not read much on him. He's another like Nova character or another like Star-Lord, Guardians of the Galaxy type of character. If you guys are again interested in Darkhawk, just let me know. There's a couple of comics that he's in. Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers, or Spider-Man, I guess. I guess he's in Venom. Venomibus. Oh, Omnibus. Yeah, like Venomnibus. Yeah. Um, I actually do have the Infinity Countdown comic, like physically. But yeah. Anyway, he gets turned into a kid, and he's like, and Warlock, too much interference, crazy tentacle, space god, fight, fry my drone, Irritinic, and then here's the abyss. So pretty much, this kind of character is looking for the space dudes, big space guys, right? Adam Warlock, the Silver Surfer, the Guardians of the Galaxy, um, Nova, and Kazar and Darkhawk, right? Those are the big space guys. He's like, and he's pretty much manipulating Cosmo or mind controlling Cosmo into helping him because Cosmo's telepathic and he can kind of like Professor X the shit out of the locations of them. So he's like, yes, we'll need to deal with him before this is all over. You've done well, Cosmo. He's like, da, must be having faith. Yes, this is what you say, patriarch. And he's like, that's right, Cosmo. We must have faith, for we are the universal church of truth. And here's everyone that he's kind of like imprisoned. It looks like Darkhawk is here, right? And it looks
Oh,
like,
should I see Abomination?
yeah, it kind of looks like Abomination. You got this looks like the original Human Torch, but again, it could just be people he's targeting, or it could be a prison. Here's Kazar. So it looks like it's a prison, or like people he's targeting. It looks like it's people he's targeting, right? Because you have Darkhawk here, you have Kazar here, um, Abomination. It looks like, and then his last words are "Find me, Peter Quill," right? Because he wants Star Lord. And speaking of Star Lord, I did cover a Guardians comic. It is very quick. I promise to get through this. Pretty much, they're back on Earth, and Peter and Cosmo are lying low, trying to find a tool that'll turn Peter into like a god. You remember how he was part of like the Celestials with what's his face, the living ego, the living planet.
Yeah.
So he's trying to find a way to tap into his godlyhood, and he's with Cosmo. The two of them are blending in on Earth because he believes that it's on Earth, right? And here's the captain, Captain Cognit, like this police guy. Is like, oh, you got to stop your dog because he has to be on a leash. And then this nuke blows up, and he turns on his helmet, and they head off. And the things like he's like, hey, what are you, hey, you know this character, what are you doing? He's like, Cosmo, run. He's like, Cosmo, forget how much he loved the wind on his face. But Peter Quill's driving needs improvement. He's like, cut me slack. I left Earth before I was old enough to drive. And here is Korath, the bounty hunter that's like tasked in following them, and he shoots them, right? But the cops pull him over, right? Like this interdimensional space guardian is pulled over by a fucking police officer in Ohio or whatever, and he's like, that's stun Korath, and he's like not you again, get out of the car. He's like, stay back, put your hands in the air, and he's like, look, Coogan, and he gets tased immediately and they sent to jail. They look, just give me a ticket for walking my dog without a leash and let me out of here. He's like, you also stole a car, but that's not important. He said, you said the name Peter Quill. What do you know about him? He's like, really? That's what you want to know? He's like, yeah, it's personal, but I used to bully him. I found out later that his mom was real sick and I wanted to apologize and it's been haunting me for years. He's like, I'm Peter Quill. I was abducted by aliens as a kid, found out I was space royalty, and now I have to come back to Earth to find a seed that grants me unlimited power. And this dude is just laughing his ass off. But that bounty hunter comes back in Korath and he's like trying to fight him. But the Guardians come in because Cosmo had telepathically communicated with them, and he's like, Coogan or whatever, Keegan, random ass cop guy. He's like, I'm coming with you, and this is how they lay low in the mall because they're pretty much looking for this in like an aqueduct or like a nuclear bomb shelter or whatever, something underground, and they built a mall over the thing, so they have to like blend in. So you have like cops and like SWAT teams, and then do you know who they put in the fucking in the fucking stroller?
Rocket?
Yeah.
No
They
way.
put Rocket in a stroller because it's like they can't have this raccoon walking around, and it's funny because it makes sense for these two because they're human and Cosmo's a dog, so it's like he's like a police dog. And then he stops and he's like, oh look, this is one of the things that hold like 10,000 songs or whatever. Anyway, they end up finding the like tunnel down to the basement, and they find like a box, right? And he thinks it's in there, but it's just a bunch of old comics, and then um Kargoth or whatever, Corinth, Carwash, what's his name?
The car wash.
Korath, yeah. Korath ends up coming with his army, and pretty much Rocket comes out, and they start fighting, and they're firing back. I cut all of this because it's nothing related to Cosmo, and he shoots one of Rocket's grenades, and it starts to go off. So Rocket like uses it, and pretty much it shrinks everyone in the mall to like a tiny box. So that's why they teleport out, and then they end up coming back, grabbing the box, and then saving everyone and putting everything back to normal. Then they all go out and fight Ronan and Nebula because they think it's in space, but then they all end up coming back to Earth because they realize it's on Earth. So they go to Attilan, which is the home of the Inhumans, um, Adelon, and then they end up finding Ronan and Nebula there. But then when they realize that Adelon used to be on Earth, they end up going there, and that's where they continue. And the comic of obviously continues without Cosmo because they end up leaving him on nowhere. So it's a pretty much like a that's it kind of thing. But that's pretty much it for Cosmo the dog. Do you want to give me like a grade and a rating on him before we head out here?
I mean, even though like Cosmo, well, had like 8 comics, but like was only in half of them, and now I wouldn't consider him like a wacky character. Like
Mm.
he's not boring. He's really interesting.
Mhm.
I wouldn't see why not. Like he's not in the MCU more.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see him more in the MCU. I'm assuming they just can't have him there because it's hard to get a dog to be able to talk and whatnot. Yeah. Um, but but yeah, it was cool to have him there, and I do hope to see him more. Do you want to give me like a grade, like letter or
uh,
number out of 10, or a
I'll say
letter
like a
grade?
7.5.
7.5. Yeah. I would give him that as well, like 7.5, 8 almost, cause he's a cool character. Right? He's a fun
I
character.
just
He's
really
he's
wish he had his
an
own
old
comic.
comic. Yeah, that's what's holding him back. I think from being such a A-list character is like a really good standalone no Cosmo comic, right? Because like he was in like of what we covered, one Guardians of the Galaxy comic, a Nova comic, and like this other comic that mostly had Nova in it as well. So it felt a little bit more like a Nova episode, even though it was like a Cosmo episode. Um, but yeah, I hope to see him more. Do you have anything you want to say before we head off with
I
the
remember
points?
you told me that this episode would be short, but
It's
it,
like
it
it
it's
ended
not.
up being it ended up being a full hour. Yeah. Uh
But
um
I wouldn't expect that for
yeah, for
a
Cosmo,
wacky
a wacky
character,
character
but
like
which is not.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it'd be a little shorter. I did try, like, I mean, he does still have 8 comics, and a lot of it was filled with other people, so I tried to fill it with as much Cosmo content as I could. Um,
For Cosmo not having like his own comic,
mhm,
I'll just change my rate and just give him like a 6.5.
okay. I
Yeah.
think I'd still stick to the 7.5 or 8, just because he's such a cool character. And then, um, if you guys ever get the chance, he's in, he is in another comic. Believe it or not, he is in the Marvel Champions card game box set when you fight Thanos in it's the Thanos one, the Mad Titan, or the Titan's Curse or whatever, and the instructions have like comics on the inside. He's in that, and he's like a playable character. Um, Highly recommend playing that and testing Cosmo out. He's not like a champion, but he is a like a summoning character. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Cosmo. I'll see you guys next week for more of those requested characters. Anything else you want to say real quick before you head off? Any last words?
Nope. I think that's it.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for coming. I will see you guys next week.